Hello, welcome to Matters of Decorum. I'm Scott Corum. This is what matters to me. My assistant Devin on the futon behind me. If you see a random hand or knee, that would be her. So, there's a philosophy of role playing. This is not the first time I've tried to talk about it. This is not my first swing at making this particular post. Because I looked back at some of the footage that I did before, and it seemed awfully bitter and restrictive. I have issues. As a player, as a GM, there are some things in role playing games that bother me that won't necessarily bother everyone, and I understand that. And I found myself using a lot of words like should and shouldn't, or couldn't, or can't. And everyone approaches role playing in a different fashion. And should. It's a wonderful sandbox for the imagination, and no two imaginations are exactly alike, nor should they be. So, I'm going to present this not as a way you should roleplay, but as a way you can, and as a potential solution to problems that may come up in your game. As a game master, I find it very useful when people engage the situation as it is. Not everyone can or does do that. It's harder when you're a new role player. You're just getting into it, your first D&D game, or you've picked up something you want to try, Fate or Savage Worlds, and, well, how does this work? What do I do? You make up a character and you wait for something to happen to it. That's okay. Nothing wrong with that. The game master should be providing things for a character to do. That is one of the things that happens. But when you wait for things to happen to your character, you may find that other characters are getting more spotlight, more playtime. The game master is addressing those players more often, and you might not be getting as much time and attention in the game as you would like. So what is the difference? What does the new role player who is waiting for things to happen to their character have going differently than the role player, perhaps more experienced role player, who is being more engaged by the game master? The more experienced player is reaching out with agendas and backgrounds of their character and grabbing the attention of the game master. In the movie Dead Poet Society, Robin Williams' character brought a wonderful term into a mainstream parlance. The term is Carpe Diem, or seize the day. A wonderful philosophy to work by. You reach out and grab the day. You make the day your own. You turn the day into something that you have made, as opposed to letting days happen. The philosophy of gaming that I am talking about borrows from that terminology. Some people call it Carpe GM. Seize the game master. Again, some people can and do this. Other people sit back and wait for game to happen to their characters. But you can make a game happen to your characters. You can involve yourself in such a way that your character is fundamentally instrumental to the game, regardless of any backstory or involvement in the plot. There are different levels of this kind of involvement. It can go too far. It can go not quite far enough. Let's address those. Carpe GM is not a binary situation. You're either seizing the game master or you're not seizing the game master. No. Carpe GM is a spectrum. It goes from I'm sitting back and letting things happen to my character, past parts where that involvement is good and beneficial, all the way to I am going to be in the game master's face, constantly telling the game master things my character wants to do, regardless of what anyone else is trying to do or say. There's Carpe GM, and then there's overbearing the game. And a comfort zone usually somewhere in the center. It's one thing to sit back and wait for a game to happen. That's not an entirely bad start or starting strategy for a beginning role player. If you're not sure how things are done, if you want to sit back and observe, you can be observing how the game is played while you have the character in front of you, and if things happen to that character, you're learning. That's awesome. If you just don't think that you can put the emotional investment into this game that everyone else is, that's fine. You can wait for game to happen to you. At some point, you might feel like you need a little more attention or want to get involved a little bit more. Everyone else is rolling more dice and doing more things, and you are taking your turn in combat, and that's it. And you want more. That's when you have to reach out a little bit. The Game Master is unfortunately terribly, terribly busy all the damn time. There is no point at which the Game Master is sitting around waiting to do something for someone because nothing else is happening. Okay, some Game Masters might get to that point. But the Game Master is not only carrying the backstory and plot of the entire campaign, they are also the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, or every sense that the characters can be experiencing at any point in time. I look around the corner, what do I see? Do I smell anything funny? Or give me a perception roll. You smell something funny. Give me a perception roll. That's not the way that should feel. That's not paper. That doesn't sound right. There's a wolf calling in the distance. That constant flow of information takes up a lot of the Game Master's time and attention. They miss people sometimes. And if there are 4 players saying, I want to roll perception, I want to roll investigation, I want to roll insight, I want to roll something, and one person sitting back waiting for a game to happen, someone is not going to get as much game. Carpe GM is that I want to do this. My character is looking here. It comes from having maybe a good backstory. A good backstory for a character is a character who has an agenda. You're on a path of vengeance. You have some overarching driving goal in that character's life. I want to be the best swordsman. I want to learn all the spells of this college. I would like to find the right person and raise a family. Maybe that right person is a member of the Fae court, and golly, this is going to get complicated, isn't it? Backstories with agendas drive character development and involvement, and that is awesome. A good game master will take those backstories that are generated as the characters are made up, either involve themselves in the generation of that backstory, provide information in a framework in which good backstories can happen, or take backstories and involve them in the background of the campaign. Both. There's no reason not to do both. So that you're not writing down a background, you're weaving a tapestry between what is happening in the whole world and what the characters' backstories are. And when that all works together, that's awesome. A character with, I have no, my parents are dead, or I don't know who my parents were and never will. I was an orphan. I was left on a doorstep. I have no brothers or sisters. I didn't involve myself with anyone when I was growing up. I came into this game world with no personal involvements, having learned how to kill absolutely everything that exists with a toothpick. What do I do? That's I'm sorry, what?
Go kill something.
Well, go kill something. Yeah, you naturally, I'm going to go kill something, which means you're involved in the combats, and that's awesome. But all the stuff between the combats, you miss a little something. You have a backstory that has some. You have a backstory that has some NPCs in it. That has, your parents or a mysterious lost parent, some siblings, childhood friends, an organization that you were a part of, maybe that you're no longer a part of, maybe that now you're the enemy of. Some enemies in your past, some people hunting you down, or just want you as a subject of interest. That gives the game master extra stuff. It might not always make it into the campaign, but that might get woven in there. That would be an interesting encounter, that thing from your character's past. And then your character is involved. Well, where did they come from? How do I track these people down? I remember that person from someplace. That guy in the mask, could that have been my brother Rex who ran away from home years ago? Backstory. Maybe you came from a distant land, a land that the group may eventually have to visit. Maybe you are destined, the predestined chosen one background is kind of done to death, but I'm a member of a party that is wandering around saving cities. Maybe I'm predestined to actually destroy the world, but maybe I can do something about that. Well, the prophecies all say that you're going to blow crap up, and oh gosh, I just described my every other Saturday D&D game in Manhattan Beach. Don't tell anyone. So, having a good backstory allows you to reach in, gives you a, hey, that sounds like something from my backstory. Let me get in. Having a character who just I want to master how all the roads work. I want to learn this college of magic. I want to just visit every city and get something from it. I want to rule the country. I want to blow up the world. Eh, not all of it absolutely honorable, but not all characters are. It means every so often your character might split off a little bit. I'm going to go check the Hall of Records while you guys go and do that. You guys go to that nice place. I'm going to go check out the seedy place. I don't like clean places. I'm going to go get a room someplace where it's a little dirtier in all the best ways. My character wants to find out where the best food is. I'm going to go get some wine that you can't get anyplace else. Is there a guy who can do tattoo magic in this town? Because that got me an idea. All of that is Carpe GM. All of that is I'm bringing something to the table. I'm not just waiting for the adventure to wash over my areas of interest. I've got an area of interest. I'm going to go explore where that is. I encourage game masters to encourage this kind of behavior. I love it when a character does that because that means I've engaged them with my world enough that they want to get an extra piece of it. We're wandering around in a fictional bit of real estate, and when someone wants to plant their feet on the fictional real estate you have brought in front of them and say, this square foot of real estate is mine, can I buy a house here? That's how you get the good games. That's how you get the stories you're going to be telling 10 years down the road. When people have a level of personal involvement with the world and the people. I'm running a D&D game, 5th edition, for the group in Manhattan Beach. I've told a bunch of stories about this. I've been telling stories about this for months. I'm probably going to be doing it for a while. I told them I'd take it from first level to 20th, and they just hit 11th. And it's been mostly in the form of this tour around a fictional continent I created, encompassing a single kingdom. And they are hitting every city and fixing problems in every city. And when I started, it was awesome because they were just starting out, and they've been to most of the place. And now, when they sit back and start talking about what they want to do and the strategies ahead, it's not entirely open world sandbox. They have a lot of options in front of them, but there's obviously a path that they need to wander onto at some point. But I hear them talking about my cities, my NPCs. There are people that they want to go see or want to go kill, or maybe both. There are powers and principalities that they have gotten to know and gotten to like or gotten to hate, sometimes both within the same party. And yeah, it's kind of epic. Just because things that were in my head a few months ago, and just in my head, a drawing that I made, a map, keeps growing. And the stories keep growing. And I have a good idea of what's in these fictional cities when people get to them. But then these people go and they look for things I didn't think about, things I couldn't have, because I've got one brain and it's pretty good about generating material, but I can't envision an entire city all at once, not even over a few weeks or months of play. There's a lot of stuff in a city. You've got businesses and organizations and the infrastructure and the people and the buildings, and I'm got to give them all of that as they see it. So my players, who are all really excellent at Carpe GM, step up and say, well, I want to find a good weapon shop. Okay, that's fine. I'm looking for something special. Can I find some place that has magic spears? Because there's a bunch of magic swords here, but I don't see any magic spears. Can I get something like that? I'm looking for a wine store or tattoo magic. I got to go to the Hall of Records. I want to go to the bad bar. I want to go to the good bar. Did my dad own a shop in this town at one point in time? Those questions that require answers, that's awesome. That is absolutely amazing, and it's a good GM who wants to stretch and reach out and answer those questions. Well, we can get to that later. So, well, you got this place to go. Well, that's all very good, but throw something out there. You throw something out there, and your world is bigger. Your world is automatically bigger the moment you answer one of those questions, and that becomes part of the story, and you've made something better. You've made something better than the game you were going to have before. Anything you might have had in just your own mind, because now you're sharing that. Carpe GM. Grabbing a piece of that game and making it something of yours, because you make it something of everyone's when you do that. It is hardly necessary. You have a few people who are doing it. Everyone benefits from that. Well, I want to go to that shop too. Or I want to go to that place too. I want to try some of that as well. Can I do that too? That's fine. There's no reason not to do that. That's, you take a bunch of people who want to spend a Saturday going downtown to the city and find interesting stuff. Not everyone's going to know everything that's there. Maybe everyone's looking for something new. But it's going to be the people who are paving the way, and I'm turning down this street, I'm turning down that street, that place looks awesome, let's go there for lunch. And you have the people who are along for the ride. Everyone has fun. It's just, if you're along for the ride, you're along for the ride. I don't mind not making the choices. Eventually you might want to, well, we went to those 4 places you went to, can we go over there? I've never seen a shop like that one before. We've been to like 8 places that sell vape pens? Can we go someplace that there's a comic book store over there? Can we just go there once? And sure, yeah. Because the Game Master's the car. Game Master's the city. That place over there? Yeah, that looks interesting. Let's have a look. I harp on and on about how role-playing is interactive storytelling. And it's that, but it's so much more than that. World building isn't something that happens in the Game Master's head a few weeks or months before the game ever starts. It's not, well, I've got this thing and I'm sitting here and plotting everything out. It's part of that. World building happens in that process, but not all of it. A lot of that world building doesn't occur until people start walking around in it and kicking the tires and pushing the boundaries a little bit. The game master has thought it up to here, and a game master who is, or a gamer, a player who is Carpe GM, who is seasoning the game, is pushing it, will push that boundary of the game back and explore all the stuff exposed as the boundaries expand. That's why there's no hobby like this one. That's why there's no activity that is quite as immersive. At least not to me. I mean, a computer game is awesome, believe me. But even a sandbox computer game has walls. There is some point past which you can't go because it does not exist in the system. I suppose you could procedurally generate material, but I own No Man's Sky, and I don't think we're quite there yet. A computer game has limitations. There are things you can't do. Limitations of the code, limitations of the engine that you're using, or of the certain degrees of movement, or limitations of distance that the programmers put in there so that they wouldn't be writing the game forever, because it would take forever to write a game in which you could do absolutely anything. Not so much so in a role-playing game, because unlike a computer game, in a role-playing game, the player can always define new spaces, new areas, new actions, new rules if it comes down to that, as long as the game master is amenable. The rules say there's no rule for doing that in this game. Well, okay, let's throw it to this. Sure, give me a dex check and we'll see how that works. Okay, I guess you might need another merit for that, but let's call it this and see how it works. When the gaming engine that you're using is your imagination, well, that's how limited it is. And that it's not. There are no limits to human imagination when it comes right down to it. Okay, I got a little philosophical there. Not a bad thing. But that's basically what it comes down to. Don't be that person who doesn't recognize that other people at the table also need and deserve time and attention. You've just thought of something that is the most brilliant thing in the world and someone else is talking, but hey, Game Master, can I do this right now? And it might be time sensitive and it might not, and someone else is talking at the moment. Take turns. Take turns. I don't have any particular person in mind when I say this, just groups and group dynamics and crosstalk and yelling, and sometimes there's 3 people talking to the game master at once, and I don't always understand how a person can see 2 other people talking to the person they're talking to and expect that what they're saying is going to be what the game master hears. Pet peeve. But one voice at a time, and take turns. Everyone can grab the Game Master. There's enough Game Master to go around, and if there isn't, why not? Thank you for following me on this particular ramble. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. If you didn't enjoy the video, feel free to give me a thumbs down. Feedback is feedback. If you have any questions or comments, give me your stories about how you Carpe GM, or like to leave me a suggestion about something to talk about in the future, leave me a comment. I love getting comments. You'll love leaving me a comment. Like to see my videos as soon as they come out and be one of my regular subscribers? Well, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Every subscription lets me get a little bit more reach in YouTube land, and I really like seeing that number go up. If you super dug the video, well, go ahead and hit me up on my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/ScottCorum, and consider donating. Anything helps. Lets me write better videos and get them out there maybe a little more often. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I'm Scott Corum. This is what has mattered to me, and I'll see you next time on the next Matters of DeCorum.